Shall I start? Good morning, all the delegates and the distinguished speaker, Dr. John Sir. Welcome you all on behalf of Gokhale Education Society, Sir Dr. M.S. Gosavi, College of Pharmaceutical Education and Research, Nasi. I, Dr. D.M. Shinkar, coordinator of the webinar. We have organized our this session second webinar of one-day national level webinar on perspectives, applications, and opportunities of regulatory affairs in pharmaceutical sciences under the aegis of IQAC at MSG Copper by the Department of Pharmaceutics. About the Gokhale Education Society, our society was established on 19 Feb 1918 by Principal T.A. Kulkarni, who was a great social worker on the occasion of third death anniversary of Namdar Gopal Krishna Gokhale, a spiritual guru of Mahatma Gandhi. The society has completed 106 years of meaningful existence, and today society has more than 140 units spread over three zones of Mumbai, Nashik, Thane, Palghar, and serving more than 1.25 lakh students. Previously, Gokhale Education Society was led by late Principal S.B. Pandit, President, a great visionary and eminent personality, late Sir Dr. M.S. Gosavi, Secretary and Director General, who render invaluable service of 65 years in the field of education. At present, Honorable Dr. Mrs. D.P. Deshpande, Secretary, playing a crucial role in overall progression of Gokhale Education Society. The college has been established in 2012. Presently, college offers M.Pharm in Pharmaceutics and M.Pharm in Pharmaceutical Quality Assurance program with intake of 15 seats each. B.Pharm program permanently affiliated to Savitribai Phule Pune University, Pune with intake of 100 seats, and Diploma Pharmacy program affiliated to MSBT Mumbai with intake of 60 seats. In last year, in October 2023, college has accredited by NAC for 5 years with CGPA of 3.22. The college has state-of-art infrastructure and has a lush green surrounding which provides a favorable environment for the students to grow not only as a good pharmacist but as a world-class citizens. The college has an experienced and qualified staff with academic excellence. Now everywhere we are organizing the seminars, conferences, and faculty development programs and workshops. Now this activity of webinar, every month we are organizing the webinars of every department to get the knowledge for all the pharmacy professionals and the pharma persons. So now I will hand over the mic to Mrs. Kuar ma'am. Thank you.
Good morning, one and all. On behalf of Gokhale Education Society, Sir Dr. M.S. Gosavi, College of Pharmaceutical Education and Research, Nasik, I, Rima Kuvar, Assistant Professor, Department of Pharmaceutics, feel privileged to welcome you all for Session 1 of one-day national level webinar on perspectives, application, and opportunities of regulatory affairs in pharmaceutical sciences. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce our session 1 speaker, Dr. John Disouza, sir, Principal, SYBES, Bombay Institute of Pharmacy and Research, Dombivli, Maharashtra. Sir has completed his B.Pharm and MBA from Shivaji University, Kolhapur. Sir has completed M.Pharm in Pharmaceutics and PhD in Pharmaceutics from RGUHS, Karnataka. Sir also has completed professional diploma in clinical research from Catalyst Clinical Services Private Limited. Sir also has certificate course in computer application from CEDTI Aurangabad. Sir has huge work experience of professional work experience of 14 years experience as a principal and professor at SWVSM Tatya Saheb Kore College of Pharmacy, Varananagar. Sir has 10 years of experience as a lecturer and assistant professor at Bharati Vidyapeeth College of Pharmacy, Kolhapur. Sir also has experience as a guest lecturer at Kolhapur Institute of Technology. Sir has work experience as a PG teacher from 2006 in pharmacy at Shivaji University, Kolhapur. Sir also work as a guide for PhD students at SUK and DY Patil University, Kolhapur, Pacific University, and JJTU, Rajasthan. Regarding skills and achievements, Sir, as a national coordinator for Maharashtra State Association of Pharmaceutical Teachers of India, Sir is a member of Board of Studies Pharmacy, Shivaji University, Kolhapur. He is a chairperson at IPA, Maharashtra State Board Educational Division, EC member, IPA Educational Division, President, Kolhapur. He is EC member at Controlled Release Society Indian Chapter and Samvedana Foundation, Azara. He is a secretary at Shivaji University Pharmacy Principals Association, advisory committee member, Association of Pharmaceutical Research, coordinator WS AIC's VIPNet Science Club and Community Development Courses, SUK, nominee at CPC SEA. He is a secretary at late Sri Kajmil Disouza Guruji Public Library, Kolhapur. He is Kolhapur District Coordinator, Lead College Scheme, Shivaji University, Kolhapur. He is a life member of IPA, APTI, ISTE, Founder Secretary, and life member of Alumni Association of BCP. Sir has received several awards, out of which secured position in World Scientist and University Rankings 2021 AD, Scientific Index 2021 with 24th rank in Shivaji University, 6,664 rank in India, and 2,82,829 rank in world. He also received Barrister PG Patil Best Teacher Award 2010-11 from Shivaji University, Kolhapur. He is, also received All India Achievers Foundation Shiksha Bharati Puraskar in 2010. Then Citizen of the Year Award Mahatma Gandhi Tanta Mukti Abhiyan Ajara in 215 book chapters, 160 research and review papers, more than 30 international and more than 90 national paper presentations, 7 best paper awards, and 21 grants in his account. Sir has citation index of 2031, I-10 index 61, and H index 25. Now, I request our eminent speaker, Dr. John Disouza, sir, to kindly guide us on topic regulatory compliance, a complex but essential component in the pharmaceutical industry. Please, sir.
Thank you so much. Am I audible, Professor?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Word for the nice introduction. Thank you, Dr. Amrutkar, Dr. Pingle, and Dr. Shinkar for giving me this opportunity. Heartiest congratulations to team Sir Dr. M.S. Gosavi, College of Pharmaceutical Education and Research, Nasik, for aptly selecting this topic and looking at the need of our, because regulatory is really been a concern. Is the screen visible? Hello, can someone help me? Is the screen visible?
Yes, sir. The screen is visible. Yes, sir, it is visible.
So thank you once again for the opportunity and a very good morning to all of you. My topic for the discussion is regulatory compliance, a complex but essential component in the pharmaceutical industry. In fact, this discussion is going to be very fundamental. But why I selected this is because to at least have a review on how complex it is. And we all know until we get regulatory compliance, we are not supposed to, rather we are not allowed to sell our product into the market. So let us understand the overview of regulatory compliance and how it is essential in regulation of pharmaceuticals. Now, instead going directly to the regulatory affairs, one should understand the relationship of the regulatory approvals and intellectual property, because these two are the vital components of pharmaceutical development, and basically which starts from the ideas. Those are sellable, right? So it is the area between overlapping between ideas and market opportunities, and importantly wherein you could have proper and strong protection of intellectual property, so that you can leverage and you can achieve return on investment. So commercialization is the key, and the protection by intellectual property goes hands in hands with the regulatory approvals. Now, how intellectual property is important, let us understand. To see that the incentives on the R&D investments are repaid to the innovator or sponsor, what it actually demands is regulatory data exclusivity, and which can be given by the authorities only if the intellectual property protections are effective and strong. This would also help innovators to get protected from unfair competitions. Like, for example, in our industry, production by Me Too companies or generic products. So what one should see is how regulatory authorities are developing IP regimen to satisfy this particular need of pharma industry. And the best of that is EU, European Union, which has come up with world-class IP regime. We will see it somewhere later. Now, those who are literally very, very interested in opting career in regulatory, first thing that they all should do is they should be keep on visiting the websites of regulatory authorities, and it is very, very essential to understand what all pharmaceutical market is all about, and what are the different types. We can classify it into regulated and semi-regulated, wherein we can also put in domestic and rest of the world. So these are the some of very important pharmaceutical regulatory agencies, which includes WHO, US FDA, EMA, MHRA, TGA, Health Canada, PMDA for Japan, CDCSO for India. For all of you listeners who are keen in learning regulatory affairs in pharmaceuticals, it is very, very important to keep on visiting these all sites and keep updates on the guidelines. Do we check these authority websites routinely? If we can really keep on checking updates, we'll be ahead in taking decisions as far as regulatory submissions are concerned. So when these many agencies are already there in place, why we should have the agency called as ICH, right? Many of us know what ICH is, and question remains why this ICH is formed. ICH is formed to actually promote the public health. Though it is not directly regulatory authority, but it is supporting regulatory authority by providing technical guidelines which are to be implemented by all the different regulatory authorities globally operating or operating nationwide or even region-wide. Now, how this ICH is helping, because I feel ICH has got lot of success in preventing unnecessary duplications of clinical trials and post-market clinical evaluations. It is also observed that it has facilitated development and manufacturing of new medicines. It is also observed that the supervision and registration of new medicines is very well facilitated, and there is also been like reduction in the unnecessary animal testings, which are actually meant for demonstrating safety and effectiveness, but while not compromising it. So these are the few of the reasons why ICH is formed. We all know ICH is formed in 1990. Many countries put together their roles, and finally this ICH is playing very crucial role as far as regulation of pharmaceuticals is concerned. Now the question is, if we know ICH, then what different technical guidelines ICH has provided? And these are classified into four: quality guidelines, safety guidelines, efficacy guidelines, and multidisciplinary guidelines. We'll see one by one. First is quality guidelines. Quality is to be demonstrated, and it is meant to be demonstrated for ensuring safety and efficacy. So various efforts have been taken, and all those involves the guidelines including stability, analytical development, analytical validation, impurities, pharmacopoeias, quality of biotechnological products, specifications, good manufacturing practices. We all know Q8, R2, Q9, Q10, Q11, how they're playing very important role in ensuring the quality. Then pharmaceutical life cycle management, continuous manufacturing of drug substance, drug products, analytical procedure developments. So anything in the pharmaceutical quality, if you could actually start referring to ICH2 guidelines, it is going to be very, very helpful. Now, the second group of guidelines includes safety. Safety by different means like genotoxicity, carcinogenicity, various ways like reproductive toxicology, various means of determining safety of pharmaceutical products are found important, and the guidelines for those have been made available by ICH. The next group is efficacy guideline. We all know efficacy needs to be demonstrated even in preclinical studies, as well as it has to be ensured by means of clinical trials even. So various guidelines on clinical safety, pharmacovigilance, dose response studies, good clinical practices, statistical mean of using statistics in clinical trials, and particularly if you could look at E14, because it has been observed that the prolongation in QT has become one of the very prominent reasons in drug recalls. So various guidelines you could see on efficacy also, as far as 4 different areas of guidelines are concerned. Now, which we cannot put directly in all these 3 QSE. Those all cross-cutting topics are put into multidisciplinary guidelines, and therein what is very, very important is MEDRA and also ECTD, like the kind of documentation that we need to submit to the regulatory authorities for getting marketing authorization or approval to sell our pharmaceutical products. So these are multidisciplinary guidelines being provided by ICH. Dear student, it is very, very essential if you are literally very serious about opting regulatory affairs as a career, then you should be thorough with all these guidelines. Make ICH guidelines as a Bible, and you will see, you will explore opportunities in regulatory affairs. Now the question is, actually, I wanted to ask you all question. If someone is there, can anybody, is it possible to see that someone can unmute and answer to this question? Is that the same authority of FDA that approves even biologics? As we know that CDER is the authority, Center of Drug Education and, Evaluation and Research, CDER, at FDA approves the sale of API drugs and their drug products. What about biologics? And whether the system of getting approval of marketing of biologics is that same. So looking at, again, it would be great if you could visit to FDA site and if you could look at this organization chart. This organization chart, though it is very complex, because you could see many center. I was telling you about the Center of Drug Evaluation and Research. You could see that there is one separate center for approval of biologics, which is, we call it as Center for Biologics Evaluation and Research. So there are various centers which are specifically meant for approval of different types of drugs, drug products, maybe in humans or even animals. What we all must know, at least these 5 bureaus, you can say, or the authorities in FDA. One is CDER, that is Center for Drug Evaluation and Research. Second one is, this is for approval of small molecule pharmaceutical products. CBER, this is for approval of biologics. Then CRH, that is for Center for Device and Radiological Health. While CVM, you could see, is for approval of veterinary medicines. And as I was mentioning, there are various offices also. One important office for all of us is OGD, and that is Office of Generic Drugs. Great. I could see that few of the listeners are putting the answers to my questions in chat box. Thank you so much. So let us go one by one. What are the different types of drug approvals under US FDA? And if you could see, those have been categorized into 3. One is IND, second one is NDA, and third one is ANDA. Investigational new drug application, and abbreviated new drug application. And where it has been included in DC Act, the section, there is no section for IND, but there are sections for NDA, and there are 2 types, right? 505B1 and 505B2. And for generic products, which we call it as ANDA, the section is 505J. So it is going to be very skillful to see what to use at what point of time to actually make a use of IPR protection. And how much time it takes review? They take 30 days for IND, 10 months for NDA, and 27 to 30 months for generic products. And how much of market exclusivity you are getting? Because investigational new drug is the permission for conducting clinical trials. Where is the question of getting market exclusivity? For NDA, it is 5 years, but you can extend it by 505B2 application by another 3 years. when also you can go for orphan drug exclusivity as well as pediatric drug exclusivity even. What is also very important in generic product development in 505J is you can get 6 months exclusivity to the first to file para 4 ANDA applicant. Now, it is very, very important to understand what is that para 4 is. And this particular table will make you understand different para. Para 1 is no patent listed in Orange Book. Can I ask a question here? What is Orange Book means? And if there is Orange Book, what other books are also there? Is there any blue book? Is there any green book, white book? And what are these all books are about? Can anybody put on answers in chat box? Because again, it is very, very important to refer to this Orange Book. Particularly, Orange Book is for those who are interested to know which all are reference listed drugs been there in the registry of, this is registry of approved drugs with the patent protection. And visiting the FDA website, if you could refer to Orange Book, you will find out the list of those all drugs which are already approved, right? So para 1 is for, can we go for the immediate market? Yes, because there is no patent registered. Can we go for, yes, someone has said purple book, Nivedita. Can you tell me what is it for, purple book? When I was telling you APIs, pharmaceutical products, if you want to check the list, then you will have to go for maybe like for NDA, and for biologics it is, and the references will be Orange Book, and for biologics instead of NDA it will be BLA, and the purple book will help you in getting the list of biologics registered with FDA. Now what this para 4 is, right? Para 4 is very, very important because it is the one which can help you in making use of your skill in bringing the product into the market, but it should not be infringing the patent. So patent is existing, and you will have to prove that the patent is either invalid or non-forcible or is not infringed. And if you could do that, then it is called as para 4 application. If you ask me, major pharmaceutical industries are focusing this, and if you could prove with the application that it is not violating the Patent Act and infringing the patents, then probably FDA may give approval to you to actually sell your products, right? And importantly, when it has come into the existence is from 1984. We all know that it is because of Hatch-Waxman Act, and which is actually the implication of Drug Price Competition and Patent Term Restoration Act, because we wanted to see that even we should come up with the low cost medicines which are affordable to the society. Now, how do we make application to all the different authorities? Now, if you could ask me, then you will come to know that these agencies, what we have seen before, they've come up with one common thing with the support of ICH to see that though the nomenclature is different, this format, the data on quality, data on non-clinical study reports, clinical study reports, all this data we will have to put it, and you could see that you can come up with CTD, and after submission of this CTD, common technical data, you could ask the regulatory authorities, you can to actually see that your drug product is allowed to sell into the market. Let us have brief things on what FDA says. These two particular slides will help you understand the entire process that FDA follows as far as the drug pharmaceutical products are, approvals of the pharmaceutical products are concerned. You see that it starts from here, drug developed, right? So new drug is discovered. Then it has to be followed with the animal testing, because both the things, both the toxicity and efficacy needs to be demonstrated in animals before we conduct any of the animal studies. And once you have this data, then you can surely meet FDA and can make IND application. Now, after review of IND application, FDA can allow you to go for clinical research, right? Clinical trials. And we all know how we conduct clinical trials, initially with lesser number of volunteers, followed by bigger number of, these are healthy volunteers, these are diseased volunteers, which goes on, the number goes on increasing. And finally, if we come up with the good clinical data which proves the efficacy and safety, then we can have a review meeting with FDA and we can go ahead with NDA application. This application is then can be reviewed, and then two things what FDA do is, one is checking the drug label and visiting and inspecting the manufacturing facility. When that is found to be satisfied, then you are allowed to sell your product and you get approval. And finally, once you sell your product to the market, it is also very important to continue it with the post-marketing surveillance. And we all know that we will have to keep on reporting and actually providing that data to the government as well as to the society, so that we can even avoid the adverse drug reactions further. What one should focus on is, there is one act which has come into the existence, Prescription Drug User Fee Act, which has implemented in 1992 and which has helped US FDA to take some fees from the companies, from the sponsors. And because now FDA could take some fees, what it has led to, what is observed is the drug approval process is speeded up, and the result is more than 1,000 drugs and biologics, importantly useful in treating cancer, AIDS, cardiovascular diseases, and life-threatening infections, are approved by FDA. These are the two slides which you can find it out on FDA's website. And I appeal that all of you must study these two slides very well to make you competent in career in regulatory affairs. Now, what did you notice in all these two, and not all, but previous two slides? You must have seen pipeline, right? So generally we use the term that the drug is in pipeline. Why? Because you could see that pipeline is shown here in these two infographics. Now, how this is just one schematic which we have already seen. Just to take review on this, if you could notice, this is one about IND, this is one about NDA, and this is one about ANDA. What is the difference? In IND, there is no any label update and site visit, while in NDA, there is label update as well as site visit. Well, the approach of review process for US FDA doesn't demands the basic chemistry, manufacturing, medical pharmacology, toxicological and statistical studies, or even the clinical investigation, which is expected in NDA, but demands the bio availability and bioequivalence studies. So this is the difference that you could find out between 505B and ANDA. Now, how many volunteers we have already seen in those FDA charts? What you should see here, the difference between 505B1 and 505B2. What is the difference is discovery years 2 to 5, which is lesser than 1, which can be even lesser than 1 year, preclinical studies, clinical studies, and see the cost invested. When it is more than 3 billion and when it is between 10 to 100 million. When and how this 505B2 is introduced. And one could see that this is introduced to avoid duplication of studies. This is helping us reducing cost, time, and risk, and promoting new products, as well as improvement in the NCE. And improvement in NCE also can be useful. All these tactics can be useful in getting the exclusivity period increased. Now, when someone could see this, what is the difference? What for you go with? Whether you will go with 505B1 or 505B2. When the cost is too less and even the time required is less and the exclusivity difference is just only 2 years. But if you could see the one who could go with 505B1, the innovator can also be at the stage to go with 505B2. Now, let us focus on exclusivity periods. For NCE, it is 5 years. For NCI, if you are coming up with new data on clinical investigation, you can get 3 years of additional exclusivity. As I was telling you, if you are really working on orphan drugs and to see that you could recover the investments in R&D, you may require more time. And looking at that, the exclusivity period is 7 years. While if you are coming up with the pediatric formulations, then additional 6 months exclusivity can also be given. Now the question is, if ANDA is meant for generic product and 505B2 is for NDA, then what is the difference? So the basic difference, if you could see, which one is easier, which one is you are capable of doing, to make it understand, one should have comparative study of ANDA and 505B2 also. So what is the basic difference is, what is it required here is B data, while in 505B, the data required is most in detail, right? While full reports of efficacy and safety is not required in NDA, which is maybe required in 505B2. What about PK and bioavailability and bioequivalence? It is required in both. Timeline of filling in case of NCA date. Timeline for NCE is 5 years, can be extended to 7.5 years by para 4 certification. So here also you could see that companies can take the advantage of para 4 certification. Also, there can be exclusivity for pediatric drug developments as well as the orphan drug exclusivity be also be there. What about patent certification? In both the cases, it is needed to be submitted. What about para 4 challenges? They're applicable in both the cases. 30-month stay exclusivity, which is also applicable for ANDA, but not in 505B, because 3 years exclusivity is already there because of Hatch-Waxman exclusivity. Then what about FDA records of filling? Para 4 filling record is needed to be maintained. Then what about eligibility for ODA and PDA, orphan drug and pediatric drug exclusivity? It is not possible with ANDA, but one can have it with 505B2. You cannot have it with 505J, right? What about patent submission by ANDA? Not required for ANDA, but it is required for 505B2. We have already seen that one should be actually following para 4 certification, wherein you will have to prove that you're not infringing the patent or whatever existing patent is unenforceable. Now, it is also very important to see the difference between what FDA says and what EMA says. This is the basic difference that one can see. In case of US FDA, we call it as INDA, while in case of EU, we call it as clinical trial application. As I was telling you, the approaches may be very similar, the timelines may be changing, and the nomenclature of the applications may be also changing. Here you could see when it is called NDA, it is called marketing. In EU, it is called marketing authorization application. As similar to that of the 505B2, we call it as hybrid application with the same name, marketing authorization application as far as EU is concerned. While for 505J, here we call it as generic medical product application. So basically here we call it as approval and here we call it as marketing authorization. And the names for applications are differing. Now, what is very, very important in as far as difference in the US FDA and EU is concerned, the application in US FDA is single window, centralized. While in EU, it can be centralized, it can be national, it can be decentralized, or it can also be mutual. So what is it? Centralized means you can put it to EMA directly, no need to go with the national authorities. And it is compulsory for all biologics because they are produced by using high technology, and also compulsory for drugs in HIV/AIDS, cancer, diabetes, neurodegenerative diseases, autoimmune diseases, immune dysfunctions, and viral diseases. If you could look at the timeline required for the assessment of the application is 6 to 7 weeks, which is matching with even with the national authority. What do you mean by national? Instead of making application to EMA, you can make application to national body, for example, MHRA in United Kingdom. No need to go for centralized procedure. Decentralized, you can also see that you can make the simultaneous applications to some other country which are constituent units of EU, right? And you can also go for mutual. What is the difference that you could see in mutual? If you get like approval in any of the European countries, if you're supposed to get approval in some other European countries, even on the basis of approval that you got in country A, then that becomes mutual. And the assessment types, somehow it differs here in case of mutual, which is 12 to 13 weeks instead of 6 to 7 weeks. Just to see the difference between the review process of USFDA and EMA, not much difference. Logically, it is same. But if you could see at the beginning, there is a gestation period. You will have to, the intention has to be submitted, and then application is to be made not before 7 months. So after review, there will be CHMP, one authority committee for medicinal products in humans, and which will access your data, and then probably with discussion, and once you prove that your product is, it's all about proving that your product is efficacious and safer. So once you demonstrate the quality, efficacy, and safety, then and convince to CHMP, then probably you may get the marketing authorization. When it is European Union, simply you have to say marketing authorization instead of approval. Now, I was telling you that EU regimen, IP regimen have helped pharmaceutical industries to actually regain the investments, or to come up with the return on investment incurred in the development of drug products. So this particular infographics diagram will help you how it is been done. If you could see that it takes almost 20 years to get you the production from the copying of your concept. And then, as I was telling you, there can be supplementary protection, SPC also, and there can also be orphan drug exclusivity, and there can also be pediatric drug exclusivity. So pharmaceutical industry must be equipped enough to take maximum advantage of all these exclusivities, and could see that they can have more time in the market as far as the patent protection is concerned. So you could notice now here that the exclusivity is more as in comparison with, is more with EMA as in comparison with the US FDA, which is close to 11 years, 8 2 plus 1, 8 years data exclusivity, 2 years NC additional, 1 additional year for new indication. And then you can see that instead of 7 years as per US FDA, 10 years of orphan drug exclusivity, which has come into the picture in 2000 by because of implementation of orphan drug regulation. Then pediatric exclusivity, which is again very similar to that of the US FDA's exclusivities. And I was telling you about, you can get 5 years supplementary patent protection, SPP, particularly when it takes more time to get you the regulatory approval. So if you could look at the entire game of getting succeeded into the market is based on how much of advantage you can take as far as these all exclusivities are. And this particular slide will help you understand these all pediatric and orphan drug exclusivities have helped. It has helped not only the pharmaceutical industries but even the society, because more number of drugs are approved. By because of pediatric exclusivity, the number over 260 drugs, new medicines and indications were approved between the period of 2007 to 16. While in case of orphan drug, 150 orphan drugs are approved in rare diseases over the period of, I mean to say, I mean to say, to treat different 90 rare diseases. Then, if this is so, maybe like we have seen how the regulation is in United States and how the regulation is in Europe. What is about regulation in India and who actually regulates the pharmaceutical business in India? This is the scenario. The market size is not that small. It is very huge, 50 billion US dollar with annual growth of 8 to 9%. India is always considered as pharmacy of the world. And the regulation is through the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. We all know the agency is CSO, and the authority is DCGI, and which actually see that the Drug and Cosmetic Act 1940 and rules thereunder 1945 are implemented. What we need to do for permission in manufacturing or importing new drug is you will have to fill form number 44, maybe for drugs and drug products, either for marketing and for clinical trials as per Schedule Y. And it is fantastic to know that to facilitate the process of approval, Government of India have come up with one single portal, which we call it as Sugam, which helps you in making the application. Now, similar to that of the few parts of US FDA and EMA, even in India, we will have to take permission to conduct clinical trials and even to sell the new drugs. So, for example, CTA is the application that you will have to make to get the clinical trials approved. There can be also submission of ethics committee approval, and one should be ensuring the compensation and insurance also. One should be following good clinical practices and other rules like informed consent, safety reporting, and what it actually you could see what all clinical trials are happening or approved. And there is one registry, we call it as CTRI, Clinical Trials Registry of India. After making the application, the form CT6 is what is the way how you get approval. And if it is through automatic portal, then it can be CT4A. So once you get CT6 or CT4A, it means that you have taken you got the 2 years approval for conduct of clinical trials. And what is the timeline for import registration? 9 months. For approval of new drug, approval or registration, 180 days. And for registration of cosmetics, it takes 3 months. Similarly, CDSCO takes important measures in reporting ADRs. There is one program that India is running, Pharmacovigilance Program of India, PVPI. We all are aware of it. through AMCs, like through Adverse Drug Reaction Monitoring Centers and regional pharmacovigilance centers, we try to see that whatever post-marketing surveillance is to be followed. There is existence of single detection and analysis. There is existence of risk evaluation and mitigation, and it is also very important to see that the regular safety data needs to be submitted by sponsors to the regulatory authority. So which about FDA, EMA and CDSCO you can go with? One should see the comparison. We'll have to speed up now. The comparison approval agency in India it is DCGI, in FDA it is US FDA, in EU it can be national or EMA. Then registration here it is single process. As I was telling, it is multiple process. Again in India it is single process. What about GMP? In USA also, in Europe also, as well as in India it is required. Stability requirements, yes, those are also mandatory. The only thing is there is difference in the temperature and relative humidity which is expected. Number of submission of batches, they are similar, but there is a slight difference. 3 primary batches and 2 pilot scale batches are to be submitted as per as US FDA is concerned. While in case of EU, 3 primary batches, out of which minimum 2 are pilot scale. While in India, 2 pilot scale / production scale if API is stable. If API is not stable, unstable, then you will have to go with 3 primary batches. What about stability data? 6 months. What about B requirements, bioequivalence requirement? It is 90% confidence interval with Cmax 80 to 125, which is, you could say, is matching with all the 3 agencies. What about dossier format? It is on paper as far as India is concerned. In USA, it is by both way, eCTD as well as paper, while in EU, it is by eCTD only. What about multimedia dissolution, which is not compulsory for United States, but required for EU and not even required in India. What is also very important is registration requirement, wherein there is necessary to have drug master file in United States also, and in EU there is a slight difference, also should have ASMF, that is active substance master file. India also do require all these things. What about CP requirement? Not required as per as US FDA, but CP is certificate of suitability, which actually speaks that the API follows the rules of European pharmacopoeias monographs, and that certificate has to be issued by ADQM, that is European Directorate for Quality Medicines, which is compulsory, which is also compulsory in India. What about IID and elemental iron, which is not applicable in India and EU, but which is required by US FDA. What is IID? IID is inactive ingredient database. What about release specification? There is slight change, 90 to 110 of that of the label claim in India and USA, while in EU it is 95 to 105 of the label claim. Color identification, it is not required in USA but required in EU and India. Water content, it is not required in US and India while required in EU. Sorry, required in US and India and not required in EU. What about Braille code in as far as label is concerned? It is must in EU, though not expected in USA and India. If this is so about the drugs which are not controlled, maybe by Narcotic and Psychotropic Substances Act, what it can be for the drugs, for drugs which comes under the category of controlled substances, wherein you could see that there are high chances of getting abused or getting addictions of. So thank you so much for listening and putting your efforts to make it understand. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. We have a question in the chat box.
Yeah, can you please go on reading, ma'am, so that...
Yes, sir. Just a minute. Why we should go for para 4?
No, basically para 4 is, you can say something which is a gift to the pharma industry. The reason because even though the sponsors have come up with the new product, if you could prove that you are coming with the product which is not infringing the existing patent, then you can get approval to sell your product. So para 4 is required for particularly those who are interested in making the use of FTO, free to operate, right? Making the use of the kind of competency that you have to see that you can prove the existing product is not Me Too type of that we are actually planning to propose for the marketing. Hope you have got the answer. Hello?
जसं काही प्रोसेसमध्ये येईल तेव्हाच आम्हाला जायचं. हो चान्सेस हो चान्सेस आहे.
One more question is there. Can regulatory authority also require submission of in-house specification? Does it mandatory by any authority?
No. Actually, in-house specifications is not mandatory. If you are trying to go for new indications, right, it is mandatory. If you are trying to go with new dosage forms, it is mandatory. But if you are sponsor or innovator, you can take advantage of it and you can go up with increase in the exclusivity. In-house specifications are never been considered as mandatory requirements. They are industry standards and never been found compulsory by any of the regulatory authorities. Those all are industry standards, and there is no any compulsion on industries can have their own set of standards which can be even higher than what regulatory authority specifies. Regulatory authority always specifies the minimum standards, right, that industry needs to abide with. Right? You got the answer?
For inconvenience, we have technical issues here. Okay, I think questions are over. Thank you, sir. That was an excellent session on regulatory compliance. You explained very well on IPR protection in pharmaceuticals, major regulatory agencies, then types of drug approvals under US FDA, then pharmaceutical regulation in India. Thank you very much, sir. Now I request you kindly accept this virtual certificate as a token of love.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much. For next session, there is a slight change. We are going to start third session after 5 minutes. So kindly join third session link after 5 minutes.